Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name is Monica, and for those who are not new, welcome back. It is great to see you here again. And today I am going to do a historical romance reading vlog for you. And I decided to do this because of Lord of Scoundrels. You're going to see this hot mess on the outro in the last update for one of the books, because I finished all the books today, or at least the last one that I was reading, and I went to go start editing this video so I could get it to you out, to you, because I need to talk better, out on Saturday. However, I just went on and on and on and on about how much I love one book and how much I really did not like the other book. And it just was not usable, and I do not have it in me to go ahead and cut and paste and splice and do all of that. So here's the intro to this vlog. I have decided to reread two books and have you guys pick one of my books for me. So the first book that I am going to reread is Love in the Afternoon, and it is a 5-star favorite for me. I read it back in 2021, loved it, loved Beatrix and Christopher. And I do keep trying to call him Michael. I don't know why, I just do. But it's Christopher. He's fantastic. Love him to pieces. And I wanted to see if this would hold up to a reread. Because I'm trying to reread some books that I really love to see if they still hit the same way that they did a couple years ago. That was one of my personal goals for 2023. And the other book that I wanted to reread in this historical romance vlog, and this is the reason why I decided to do this vlog to begin with, was because I decided to reread The Lord of Scoundrels. I know it's Christi from Christi's reads a lot. It's her favorite. I know it's Jessen from Jessen Read Romance. Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. Jess from Peace Love Books. Pretty much anyone who's read it. Anyway, everybody loves it. It's their favorite. I didn't like it, and I DNF'd it after chapter 5 because I got very angry with the hero and the heroine because of how they treated her brother. And in my original intro, I was about a 6-minute diatribe of how much I hated them. So this is a new one, and we're not going to go there. But here's the thing. I decided to go ahead and read it to see if I feel the same way, or if I can get past the feelings that I had about this book. And they're very legitimate, very me feelings. But sitting here right now, as I'm introing to you guys know, I know how I'm feeling, but I can't tell you, so you'll have to wait. So anyway, I'm going to reread Lord of Scoundrels, and then I asked on Instagram for you guys to pick what book I'm going to read for a new read for me. It didn't have to be a new release, it just had to be a new read. I gave you 3 options, and the Highwayman won. So here's the graphic. Basically, or I should say my screenshot from the voting. All but 2 people wanted me to read The Highwayman. So I am going to go ahead and read The Highwayman and by Kerrigan Byrne. And I'm excited for this. And I know how this vlog's going to end because I'm refilming this intro, but you don't. So stay tuned to hear my thoughts on all 3 of these books. I will update you as soon as I have something to update. And until then, happy reading, guys. Hey everybody, it is Monday around noontime, and I actually took the day off I'm going grocery shopping and stuff, but I had to take the day off because my daughter needed to go to a doctor's appointment. Anyway, I'm actually further along in this vlog than I thought I was going to be. So here's the thing. I loved Love in the Afternoon, and I knew that going in, and I was wondering if it was going to hold up to the reread. And honestly, it did. I actually think I love it more now than I did before, because I love the care that Beatrix and Christopher have with each other. They didn't have the best start before the war because he was a bit of a jerk to her. But knowing that, and knowing Beatrix, who cares about other people, she's a very empathetic character. She loves people and animals, but she loves animals more because they're not jerks generally. Anyway, she decides to write to him because Prudence didn't want to write to him. And they fall in love through these letters. But when he comes back, he's highly wounded. He finally figures out that the person who was his pen pal, I guess you could call it, was not Prudence, but it was Beatrix. He falls in love with Beatrix. He decides that he has to have her, but he doesn't want to marry her because he's so wounded. He has PTSD from the war, from the Crimea. And honestly, I get it. But she's like, no, I want to be your wife. And it was really funny when he goes to ask permission, or at least to talk about it with Cam and Leo. He's like, the only person who really wanted this marriage was Beatrix, because she loves him. Because Christopher's terrified that he's going to hurt her, which is actually a very legitimate fear when you're having such violent nightmares that you're thrashing out. Hold on, I'm just gonna sneeze in a minute. Maybe not. So anyway, yeah. And I loved how everything wrapped up. I loved how she was everything he needed and he was everything she needed. And they both grew apart and together. They both grew separately and together. And it was just it's just a very beautiful story. It's one of my favorite Lisa Kleypas books. So yeah, that's still a favorite of mine. That's probably never going to change. I actually love it more now than I did when I read it back in 2021. Okay, so I read Loretta Scoundrels. I've started it, and this is also a reread because the first time I DNF'd it, I got so angry with it, and it wasn't the romance. It was how, and I think I sort of touched on this in the intro of this video. It was how Dane and Jessica were treating her brother. So if you think about it this way, Jessica and Dane are intellectual, they're compatible in every way, sexually, social wise, intellectually. So their intellectual status is up here, whereas her brother's is down here. He's sort of a hanger-on type of a guy. He doesn't understand social situations or social cues. So he wants to emulate people who are very much the way he thinks he should be. And Dane, who's a scoundrel because he was really abused when he was younger by his dad, and his mom was no better. His mom left him. I don't think that's a spoiler. Anyway, so he's drinks, gambles, hires prostitutes, all this stuff. And so her brother's trying to emulate this. He uses her brother to get her, to get her attention, okay? And to me, that's unforgivable. When she goes to his house, to this party, she walks in. The first thing she sees is two prostitutes servicing Dane, and she gets all upset about that. But then she looks at her brother, who's literally asleep, drunk on the floor. She sees if he's alive, but then she just like walks over him. And the disrespect and that they have towards her brother is, they don't call him an idiot. They call him a lot of different names. And the fact they use him in a certain way is honestly appalling to me. See, I work with people with disabilities. I work with people who have problems understanding social cues for intellectual disabilities. So the way Loretta Chase wrote her brother was very much like this population. So he's basically considered ignorant, and they didn't use the R word, and I will not repeat that word. I hate that word. That word to me is one of the most disgusting words ever invented. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know. I get very angry when people use that word, even in historicals or anything like that. I don't like that word. I'm more willing to forgive it if it's older, because I mean, as a society, we've changed and we've grown. But the thing is that they treated him like he's not smart, and he's not. And they did not try to help him. They just used him and disregarded him for the first 5 chapters. And that's when I actually DNF'd it the first time. But I know, because I'm forcing myself to reread this in a vlog, that I needed to go further. So yeah, all of that's still there. And if it wasn't for this vlog, I probably would not have finished this book. Okay, so after that point, and this is where I'm at, is now they're married. And I love the banter. They are match for match. They go after each other. And I love the fact that after he basically ruined her at a party, after both of them assumed something that was not right, she went and shot him. I was like, that's pretty good. But, and then they basically got over their feelings in such a cantankerous and bantery way that they got married. Even around that time, they were kind of mean to her brother. So putting my feelings aside about the way they treated her brother, because that's not what this book is about. But that is definitely something that is a hard line. You don't treat people with disrespect or rudeness. That's just being polite, at the very least. I think this is a very, very good romance. They have the chemistry. They have the intellectual stimulation that they have for one another. They're matching wits. They have the banter. They have the it's just like they're butting heads, but it's sort of leading up to this big explosive scene when they finally do consummate their marriage. So yeah, no, I get it. This is a very, very good romance novel. And if it wasn't for the whole thing with her brother, because that's where I'm stuck at. So if I was rating this alone on the romance, 5 stars, perfect. It is fantastic. And so I'm glad I'm rereading this, but at the same time, I can't excuse the fact of how they were treating her brother. And yeah, I am harping on it because it makes me mad. It really does. It makes me mad. So, and honestly, I got through the first 5 chapters this time because I basically skimmed them to make sure that I needed to know certain things to remind myself, because I didn't really listen to the first 5 chapters, because that really, that did it for me. So after that, where I'm at now, 5 stars, perfect. So right now, because of and I'm going to be very kind with my rating, I'll probably end up giving it a 4.5 or a 4, depending if there's any more issues with the treatment of people of lesser intelligence, I should say. Once I'm done with Lord of Scoundrels, I will update you, and I will start The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne, as that was what you guys chose for me to read. So when I have something to talk about, I will talk to you. Until then, happy reading. Bye. Okay, I just laughed out loud. Florentinos and breeding organs. Oh my gosh. I love the language Loretta Chase is using in this book. It is funny. This is a good book. So I keep thinking it's Monday when it's actually Tuesday. It's Tuesday evening. When I was talking to you earlier today about Lord of Scoundrels and Love in the Afternoon, I kept saying it was Monday, but it's actually Tuesday. So oops. I'm tired. Life's tiring. But we're going to move on. Okay, so I finished Lord of Scoundrels. And yes, I do have thoughts. Okay, so Christi's right. It is a very, very great romance. I mean, the whole thing's there. You have the angst, you have the drama, you have the heroine who basically puts the hero in his place when she finds out he has an illegitimate son. It's like, why are you leaving him with that woman? And she goes after the kid and says, like, you know what? I don't care. We're going to take that boy, because the boy was basically being neglected and abused by his biological mother. Anyway, so I really do appreciate that. I love how the hero just kept denying his feelings. Like, yeah, I don't love her, but yeah, he did. He did through the whole thing, and she loved him too. And I really, really did enjoy that. I enjoyed the second part of the book a lot more. If it wasn't for the first few chapters where her brother was in it and the way they treated him, this would be an automatic favorite. 5 stars, guaranteed. I loved it. I loved the romance. I loved the character development. I loved the plotting, the pacing. Everything is on point, but I cannot get over that one little thing. And I know that's a very much a me thing. So I highly, highly recommend this book, Lord of Scoundrels, to everyone. Like, if you're a romance reader, you need to be reading this book. This is definitely a staple in the or in the romance canon. But yeah, I absolutely loved the last 2/3 of Lord of Scoundrels, and I loved how he was broody. I loved how everybody was afraid of him but her, and it was actually really good. So yeah, if it wasn't for the first part, it'd be complete 5 stars. But for me, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 because I cannot give the first part. And honestly, if I was being more critical, I'd give it a 4 and take that 1 star off, but I don't want to do that because the writing is so good. It's compelling. I mean, Loretta Chase is an incredible storyteller. So I'm gonna just take the half of the star away because of the beginning, but that's because I couldn't, not with the way they were talking. It was the language that was used. She used a lot of language and characterized him as someone who has an intellectual disability. And for me, unless you're going to have the representation as being positive, it shouldn't be in there. And granted, this book was written in 1995, so. But anyway, I've started The Highwayman. Well, I actually started it a while ago, and then I had to put it down so I could listen to Lord of Scoundrels because my library hold was going to be ending. And right now, Farah is with the Dark Ben or Black Ben or whatever his name. I can't think of his name right now. I'm sorry, he's the hero. He kidnaps her, brings her to his castle. And yeah, it's good. I'm really enjoying it. It's dark. And it is dark. It is dark for a historical romance, but I'm highly enjoying this. And right now it is an absolute 5-star read. Here is a moment for me to complain about my day today because it's tiring. I got up at 4 in the morning to walk my dogs, 2 hours of a walk. And then I went to work. We had this big event for my class. Actually, it's with the whole county. And we were out in the bright, hot sun for like it's about 7 to 8 hours. And I was walking so much and doing all this stuff, and I had about 20,000 steps. I think you're only supposed to do like 10,000 steps. I did 20,000 steps today. I closed my rings over and over and over again today. And it is now 4:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday, and I want to go to sleep. But I did finish The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne, and that is a 5-star favorite. Oh my gosh, why did I leave it for so long? I wanted to read this book years ago. I just never did. Like, I read The Hunter. I love The Hunter. Christopher Argent is fantastic. He's a great anti-hero. But I didn't ever read The Highwayman. Well, I know why, because everybody talked it up so much that I thought it was going to be crap, because I was going to have this expectation of this grandeur, and then it was never going to follow through. And so I was afraid that was going to happen. But I'm glad you guys picked it for me. I loved every minute of that book. That book has such a interesting story, how it really was friends to lovers. It was dark. He really did not open up to her for a very long time, but why would he? I mean, the hurt, the trauma that he went through when he was a kid, protecting her, and then the subsequent jailing where he went to Newgate, it was just like, I'm not surprised he turned out to be the man he turned out to be. I mean, I would be wholly shocked if he turned out to be completely normal and a marshmallow hero. it would have actually not made any sense whatsoever for the story that was written. So absolutely 5 stars, 100%. Loved every single minute of it. I loved their connection. I loved the chemistry that the characters had. They didn't really have any banter, and that's okay. You don't need banter. I mean, I love good banter, but their connection was more soft and more quiet. And so I just loved it. And I love the fact that he told her she could have a child, but then reneged on it. And then she called him out on it and said, fine, I will go find somebody else to have a child with. And he stormed out to go find her. I love that. Because, man, he was jealous. I loved it. He was jealous. He was possessive. And he could take revenge. Oh, geez. And the other thing that I loved about this is the side characters. Obviously, Christopher Argent. And I know how his story plays out because I did read The Hunter before I read The Highwayman. And Murdoch. Now, he's a cinnamon roll. And I loved him. And I'm glad he had his happily ever after. Although we didn't really get to see it as much. And then that's okay because he wasn't the main hero. And I'm glad the way Kerrigan Byrne wrote his character. I feel like the whole thing was really true to the time period and to the classism and to the way it was. It's just such a good book, and I highly recommend if you love dark romance, I think you would love The Highwayman. I'm not going to rehash everything that I've said about Love in the Afternoon and the Lord of Scoundrels, but I can safely say this was a very successful reading vlog for these historicals. I was going to say hystericals. I'm funny. Anyway, however, I will say this. This was a near perfect reading vlog because I had 2 5 stars. One of them was a reread that held up. The new one, Highwayman, perfect 5 stars. The second one was Lord of Scoundrels. If it wasn't for the beginning with the brother, it would have been 5 stars, hands down. So it's 4.5. If I could do 4.75, I would. Maybe I'll just put 4.75 and give it 4.75 on Goodreads and just round it up to 5 stars. That's what I think I'll do. I'm just going to leave it there for now. Let me know what you think down below. And if you made it this far in this video, please leave me a purple heart as it's the color of the cover for Love in the Afternoon. I will talk to you in my next video. And until then, happy reading, everyone. Bye.